Hello everybody, McFluffyStuff here, bringing you an Esper deck tech for what we've been playing on Arena. Now I will say the Arena meta is a little different than Paper meta, so results may vary, but what we're going to do is we're just going to get right into it. I'm going to talk about the main, I'm going to talk about the sideboard a little bit, and maybe bring you a little bit of a sideboarding guide and explain some of our decisions at the end of the video. So without further ado, 2 Search for Ascanta, 2 Cast Down, 2 Moment of Craving, 2 Depose Deploy, 1 Consecrate Consume, 4 Absorb, 3 Modify, 1 Settle the Wreckage, 2 Chemist's Insight, 2 Vraska's Contempt, 3 Kaya's Wrath, 2 Precognitive Perception, 4 Teferi, 1 Chromium, 2 Syncopate, 1 Plains, 1 Island, 1 Swamp, and 4 of each of the duels. Now, I've had some people ask me some questions about some card choices. I'll explain them a little bit. Originally, the Depose Deploy was strictly in here for the best of 1 ranked, because against the mono red decks, being able to depose to tap a creature down to draw was great to buy you a turn. Deploy was also nice because it does make you 2 blockers and net you 2 life. Now they could have burn spells to shoot down the 1/1 Thopters for the deploy side. That's okay too. That's not burn directly at the face, and if they want to waste their burn spells that way, it makes it that much harder for them to get you. After a while though, the deploy side became pretty good as a way to attack control decks. You can make them, at the end of their turn, burn a counterspell on deploy, your turn, jam your Teferi down safely, and then you're off to the races. At first this card was sort of on the chopping block. I had originally 1 in here. I upped it to 3. We put it back down to 2. I think 2 is a solid number for this card right now. It's very good versus red. It's very good versus a multitude of other decks. I just like the card. It's just good value. The 4 Absorb, gaining life is all you need. It also helps you buy back some of the life from your shock lands, such as Hallowed Fountain or the Godless Shrine. So I do recommend 4 of those. 3 Mortify. This format right now feels like a must-kill enchantment style format where there's so many super strong enchantments right now, be it Wilderness Reclamation, while not as seen as much anymore, Experimental Frenzy, Ixalan's Binding, Rhythm of the Wilds. There's just so many enchantments that have to be dealt with. Mortify is super good for that. If nothing else, it flexes and kills a creature, you're okay with that too. The 2-2 split on the Chemist's Insight Precognitive, originally it was a 3-1 split between Chemist's Insight, which had 3, and the Precognitive, which had 1. As time went on, I realized that the scrying 3 and drawing 3, when you had a Teferi already out, to untap some lands back was great. You really want to sculpt your hands later in the game and start pushing away the chuff as much as possible. So I've been happy with the 2-2 split right now. The 3 Kaya's Wrath, 1 Settle the Wreckage. I feel like this honestly should be 4 Kaya's Wrath, but the Settle the Wreckage hasn't been too bad for us. Most of the time when they see you're playing Esper, they don't really think about the Settle, and I've had some people just kind of recklessly get in there and then get blown out by it. The Chromium is pretty much one of your 2 win conditions. The other one clearly is Teferi. The deploy tokens can help you a little bit, but Chromium is just a really solid defender and a good way to end games. I think that right now Esper is the best Teferi deck, and I feel that that will continue to be going forward for a little while here. It seems like Jeskai kind of went to the wayside a little bit. So, you know, you have your kill spells with Cast Down, Moment of Craving. Cast Down has kind of been a little bad for us as of late because Judith is legendary. It doesn't kill Niv Mizzets, which I haven't seen a bunch of as of late. There's a couple other really pesky cards where it just doesn't deal with cleanly, and I do not like that. But it is the risk you run. The Sultai mid-range decks, Cast Down is fantastic, and Moment of Craving is bad. So it's going to kind of go back and forth there. And for a mana base here, as you can see, for 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, we do run 27 lands. That might seem like a lot. There will be a game or two where you do flood a little bit, but this deck doesn't necessarily have the lowest mana cost, so you really want to be able to hit those land drops to continually cast your cards when you need to. Now we're going to touch on the sideboard here. We have 1 Cast Down, 2 Consecrate Consume, 2 Deputy of Detention, 3 Thief of Sanity, 3 Enamored Egos, 2 Ixalan's Binding, 1 Laura Dawnbringer, 1 Ethereal Absolution. Now for some of our explanations here. Cast Down is good versus mono red. It's good versus the Golgari mid-range list and the Sultai mid-range list. Cast Down's also MVP for the Gates list because it does help you take down their bigger threats. Consecrate Consume. I do like this just because the Consecrate side does deal with things like Arclight Phoenix and Gate Colossus, and the Consume side normally helps you deal with things such as Carnage Tyrant or Niv Mizzet cleanly. The life gain is huge. The Deputy Detentions, being able to come into play, exile a non-land permanent, it's really good. There are some matchups where it might seem tempting to pull them in, like Burn. I do not feel that's worth it. This card definitely has its place in some matchups, not all matchups. The 3 Thief of Sanity is okay. I haven't really brought them in a whole bunch yet, so I really can't speak too much on them, but I feel like they have to be there. The 3 Enamored Ego, as I said with the Mortify, this format has so many must-kill enchantments. Being able to cleanly get rid of them with Enamored Ego is amazing. Being able to get rid of their Nexus of Fates is amazing. So I feel like Enamored Ego out of the board is a great card. There's a ton of decks where you're going to bring them in against. Never bring them in against Burn. They're a little too slow. By the time you normally get to that 3 mana, they could have already blown 2 copies of whatever card you wanted. At that point, the upside is pretty much just gone. Ixalan's Binding, good for dealing with pesky permanents once they do hit board. This deck does not deal well with artifacts. There's not a ton of artifacts in the format you're necessarily worried about, but things like Treasure Map can get out of hand and allow you to get buried in card advantage. Also, again, being able to deal with enchantments, really important, really huge. You will be bringing Ixalan's Bindings in a lot. The Dawnbringer's in here just because A, it's a good card. 2 versus rival mid-range decks when they start cutting their removal, it's huge. Against Burn, normally this will stick board. You will just win game after it does. So I recommend leaving the Lawyer in no matter what. And then the 1 Ethereal Absolution, really, really underrated card. There's so many decks where they have 1/2s or 2/1s, and pretty much this is a continual kill spell, and it gives you a way to win a game. You will bring this in a good chunk versus mid-range decks, versus other creature-based decks, because if you can turn the corner with this card, it is absolutely over. 6 mana is a little bit expensive, but I do think it's well worth having in the board. Now for stuff that I will say that I haven't tried yet or just do not have, like I said in the main here, I would recommend probably a 4th Kaya's over the Settle. I know I have the rare wild card sitting there. I'm still trying to hang on to my wild cards. We don't have a lot of them right now, and I don't want to get too willy-nilly with them. With the Syncopates, I have seen 2 of my other friends have been testing out Quench, and they have had a fairly good run with it. We'll bring up a Quench here quick just so you can take a look at it for those who don't know what it does. I gotta find it. There you go, Quench. 1 and a blue, counter target spell unless they pay 2. Now I will say, right now the format is heavily just tap out to play each card, so Quench can be good. The reason why I like the Syncopates is because versus other control decks, being able to say, pay 9 or your Teferi's countered is very, very important. There will be games where they will run out of counter spells, and when they do, you just get them with the Syncopate. We have 0 Thought Erasers in our 75. I felt most games, looking at their hand, really wasn't worth it. You don't want them versus Burn. They're not super great versus mid-range decks. They can be okay in the mirror, but I just don't see it. I don't see it being super useful versus other control decks either. You have counter magic for that. Versus Burn, this deck has the problem where they can get underneath you from game to game, and then you will just get blown out. But normally between the Moment of Cravings, the Consume, if you want to bring the others in, you're more than welcome to. The Absorbs, you can pretty much kill most things that stick to boards. The only things we have to worry about are the burn spells to the face. For the most part, though, we've been pretty good against those. So I really don't think there's much else I have to say. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comments. Let me know what you think of the list, what you might change. Who knows, we might actually test it out on stream, and I'll give a shout out to whoever recommended it. So I hope that this was helpful to you. I hope it was useful to you, and thank you for watching.